Sometimes life doesn't break you all at once. It breaks you slowly, silently, piece by piece. One day it's your confidence. The next, it's your direction. And before you even realize it, you're living a version of yourself you never intended to become. You wake up going through motions instead of chasing meaning. You settle for routines instead of reaching for possibility. You start to believe that this is just how life is supposed to be. But deep down, you feel it. That quiet voice reminding you that you were made for more. Not for comfort, not for excuses, not for repeating the same patterns, but for rebuilding into a stronger, wiser, more disciplined version of yourself. Every person reaches a moment where they must decide, stay as they are or rise as who they can be. And that moment doesn't come with applause or permission. It comes with honesty. It comes with discomfort. It comes with the realization that no one is coming to fix your life for you. You must rebuild yourself brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And the moment you choose to rise, everything changes. Not instantly, but inevitably. Today is that moment. Growth begins with honest self-evaluation. And this is one of the most difficult yet powerful steps on the journey of rebuilding yourself. Most people want to transform their lives, but very few are willing to confront the truth about where they actually stand. Honest self-evaluation is not about judging yourself harshly or beating yourself down. It is about creating clarity. Without clarity, your efforts scatter, your decisions weaken, and your direction becomes blurry. When you take the courage to sit quietly with yourself and look at your life for what it is, not for what you wish it to be, you begin the process of true change. This kind of honesty removes illusions, reveals patterns, and exposes the gaps between your potential and your actions. It's uncomfortable at first because it demands responsibility. It demands that you accept your role in your results. It asks you to look at the habits that have held you back, the excuses you've relied on, the opportunities you ignored, and the mindset that shaped every choice you've made. But that discomfort is the door to freedom, because you can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. Honest self-evaluation requires slowing down and asking real questions. What am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my energy? What beliefs are shaping my behavior? What habits are building my life? These questions are not meant to make you feel guilty. They are meant to reveal the truth. When you understand how you've been living, you gain the power to decide how you will live from this moment onward. Many people keep themselves busy to avoid these questions. They fill their day with noise, distractions, entertainment, and endless activity, so they never have to face the reflection staring back at them. But rebuilding yourself requires silence at times. You must create space to think, to listen, to observe your own patterns. In that quiet, you begin to recognize the habits that have been guiding your life without your permission. You see where you settled, where you reacted instead of plan, where you allowed fear to make decisions for you. This awareness is the foundation for better choices. Honest self-evaluation also means separating your identity from your mistakes. You are not your failures, not your past decisions, not the moments when you fell short. Those are chapters, not definitions. But you must be willing to examine those chapters. When you look at your life from a place of responsibility rather than shame, you gain the power to rewrite the story. This mindset frees you from blame. Blame is the enemy of growth because it hands your power to someone else. The moment you say, it's their fault, you also say, I'm not in control. Honest self-evaluation says the opposite. It says, I may not control everything, but I control myself. And in that control lies transformation. When you own your choices, you earn your future. Rebuilding yourself becomes possible because you are no longer waiting for someone else to change so your life can change. Another part of honest self-evaluation is recognizing your strengths. Many people focus only on their weaknesses and forget that growth also comes from using what you already do well. Perhaps you are disciplined in one area but inconsistent in another. Maybe you're patient with others but impatient with yourself. Maybe you have the ability to stay calm under pressure or the talent to learn quickly when you commit. These strengths matter. They are tools you can use to rebuild a stronger version of yourself. A person who only sees their flaws will always feel powerless, but a person who sees both their strengths and weaknesses builds with confidence. They understand where to apply their energy and where to improve. They don't waste time wishing for different abilities. They maximize the ones they have. Honest self-evaluation is also about alignment. You must ask if your daily actions align with the life you say you want. If you say you want a healthier body, but your habits contradict that goal, the truth will reveal it. If you say you want financial growth, but your behavior is guided by impulse, clarity will expose it. If you say you want peace, but your routines are chaotic, self-valuation will confront you. Alignment is uncomfortable because it destroys illusion, but it also creates empowerment because it shows you exactly what to adjust. This clarity removes confusion and replaces it with direction. Excellently. Honest self-evaluation is the moment you take back the steering wheel of your life. It's the moment you stop drifting and start choosing. It's the moment you shift from wishing into planning, from blaming into owning, from hoping into acting. It is the beginning of rebuilding yourself because it is the only way to understand what truly needs to be rebuilt and what simply needs to be strengthened. Discipline is the foundation of personal transformation because it is the force that turns desire into reality and intention into achievement. You can dream of a better life, visualize a stronger version of yourself, and imagine the success you want, but none of it takes shape without discipline. Discipline is the quiet architect behind every meaningful change you've ever made. It is the ability to act not only when it's convenient or exciting, but especially when it's uncomfortable, boring, or difficult. Most people rely on motivation, but motivation is temporary. It rises and falls like the weather. Discipline, however, is steady. It shows up even when motivation disappears. It's the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. When you practice discipline, you train your mind to prioritize long-term reward over short-term comfort. Comfort is seductive. It pulls you toward the familiar, the easy, the effortless. But comfort never builds strength. It never builds skill. It never builds character. Discipline is what allows you to step outside the comfort zone and into the growth zone where progress actually happens. It teaches you to delay gratification, to sacrifice what you want now for what you want most. The person you become is shaped by small decisions made consistently, not by occasional bursts of effort. Discipline helps you show up every day with intention, even on the days when you don't feel like it. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it works quietly. Nobody sees the early mornings you choose to get up instead of hitting snooze. Nobody sees the moments you resist distraction, the times you pick the harder option, the nights you stay focused instead of giving in to impulsive habits. Discipline works behind the scenes, but its results appear in the open. People will notice your transformation long before they understand the effort behind it. They may call it luck, talent, or natural drive, but you will know it came from discipline, the daily decision to follow through on your commitments. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your inner confidence. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken it. Many people struggle not because they lack ability, but because they no longer trust themselves to follow through. Discipline repairs that trust. It teaches you that your word matters, even when no one else is watching. When you say you will read daily, exercise regularly, control your impulses, or work toward your goals, discipline helps you fulfill those promises. And when you keep those promises repeatedly, you develop a deep belief in your own reliability. That belief becomes a powerful force that influences every other area of your life. Another important part of discipline is consistency. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. Perfection is unrealistic and unnecessary, but consistency compounds. A small positive action repeated every day creates massive results over time. Reading 10 pages a day turns into hundreds of books over a lifetime. Saving a small amount each week creates financial stability. Practicing a skill for a few minutes daily leads to mastery. Discipline makes consistency possible by turning effort into routine. When something becomes a routine, it no longer relies on mood or motivation. It becomes automatic. That automation frees your mind and helps you move forward without internal negotiation or struggle. Discipline also protects you from your emotions. Feelings are important, but they're not always reliable guides. Some days you feel tired, discouraged, uninspired, or overwhelmed. Without discipline, those feelings take control and dictate your actions. With discipline, you acknowledge your feelings, but choose your actions based on commitment rather than emotion. This ability to act despite emotion is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. It separates those who wait for permission from those who create progress. Another aspect of discipline is learning to say no. The power of no is essential to the rebuilding process. You must say no to distractions, to temptations, to unproductive habits, and sometimes even to people who pull you away from your goals. Every yes you give to something unimportant is a no you give to your growth. Discipline helps you protect your time, energy, and focus, which are the resources required for transformation. Discipline is not a punishment. It is a form of self-respect. It is choosing to treat your future self with the honor it deserves. It is refusing to betray your potential for temporary comfort. When you embrace discipline, you take full responsibility for your life. You become the author of your story instead of a spectator to your circumstances. Discipline makes freedom possible because it removes the chaos of inconsistency and replaces it with the stability of intentional action. Rebuilding yourself requires discipline, not just once or twice, but continually. It's the steady, dependable force that keeps you moving forward through doubt, discomfort, and delay. It builds strength, shapes character, and transforms your identity from someone who wishes into someone who works. Discipline is the foundation because without it, no structure you build will stand. With it, everything becomes possible. Letting go of old versions of yourself is one of the most challenging and transformative parts of rebuilding your life because it requires you to confront the identity you've been carrying for years and decide that it no longer serves your future. People often stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they remain loyal to an outdated version of themselves. They cling to old habits, old beliefs, old fears, and old stories that once felt familiar but now act as anchors. Rebuilding demands that you release those anchors, even when they feel comfortable, because you cannot step into a new identity while holding tightly to the one that has kept you limited. Every stage of growth requires letting go of something, sometimes a behavior, sometimes a mindset, sometimes a dream that no longer aligns, and sometimes simply the person you used to be. Letting go begins with recognizing that the past version of you was not wrong or broken. It was simply incomplete. That version helped you survive certain seasons, navigate certain challenges, and learn certain lessons. but it is not equipped to carry you into the future you desire. The habits that kept you comfortable will not elevate you. The beliefs that once protected you may now restrict you. The patterns that felt familiar may now feel suffocating. Growth becomes possible when you accept that your past self has served its purpose and that holding on to it will only limit the possibilities ahead. This recognition is often painful because it requires grieving the identity you've known, the routines you've normalized, and the limits you've accepted. But grief is part of growth. Letting go clears the space for something greater. One of the reasons people struggle to let go is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of discomfort, fear of not knowing who they will become without their old identity. Even negative patterns can feel safe when they are familiar. Your mind prefers certainty over growth, even when that certainty keeps you stuck. This is why letting go requires courage. It asks you to move forward without a full picture of what comes next. It asks you to trust that the future version of you will be stronger, wiser, and more capable than the past version. Every major transformation begins with this leap of faith, choosing the possibility of who you could be over the security of who you've been. Another part of letting go is releasing the expectations you once placed on yourself. Sometimes the hardest thing to leave behind is the plan you thought your life was supposed to follow. You may have envisioned a certain path, a certain career, a certain relationship, or a certain lifestyle, and when life took a different direction, you held on to that old dream out of pride or fear of failure. But rebuilding yourself requires flexibility. It requires acknowledging when an old dream no longer fits your current purpose. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means redirecting. It means honoring your evolution rather than forcing yourself to remain in a chapter that has already ended. To let go, you must also confront and release the stories you've told yourself about who you are. Stories like, I'm not good enough, I always fail, I'm not meant for more, or I can't change. These stories are not truths. They are conclusions you made during moments of fear, hurt, or disappointment. They may have shaped your behavior for years, but they do not define your future. Letting go means rewriting those internal narratives and giving yourself permission to grow beyond them. Your identity is not fixed. It is flexible. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, habits, and even your own past beliefs. That is the essence of rebuilding. Letting go also involves releasing relationships that hold you back. Not every person in your life is meant to stay for every season. Some people support your old identity but cannot support the new one. Some are attached to who you used to be and feel threatened by who you are becoming. Some drain your energy, discourage your growth, or keep you tied to unhealthy cycles. Letting go of these relationships is difficult because it brings emotional discomfort, but it is necessary for your evolution. You cannot rebuild yourself in an environment that constantly pulls you backward. True growth often requires making room for new influences, new energy, and new connections that align with your highest potential. Another key part of letting go is releasing the need for perfection. Sometimes people cling to their old identity because they fear failing as a new version of themselves. They worry about making mistakes, about not being fully ready, about not meeting expectations. But rebuilding isn't about transforming overnight. It's about progressing slowly, steadily, and bravely. When you let go of perfection, you allow yourself to try, to learn, and to grow without judgment. You give yourself room to be human, which is essential for lasting change. Letting go ultimately empowers you to redefine yourself. It creates space for new habits, new standards, new perspectives, and new levels of confidence. It frees you from cycles that no longer serve you. It transforms your mindset from limitation to possibility. And though the process is uncomfortable, it is also liberating. When you release who you were, you make room for who you are meant to become. Letting go is not losing, it is choosing. It is choosing your future over your familiarity, your potential over your past, and your growth over your comfort. Vision is the blueprint for rebuilding, because without a clear picture of who you want to become, your effort has no direction, your discipline lacks purpose, and your growth remains unfocused. Vision is more than a dream or a wish. It is a deliberate decision about the life you want to build and the person you want to grow into. It is the mental architecture that gives your journey structure and meaning. Without vision, you wake up each day reacting to life rather than creating it. You move through routines without intention, you work hard without progress, and you pursue goals that don't truly belong to you. But when your vision is clear, your path becomes illuminated. You begin to move with purpose, clarity, and confidence because you know exactly what you're aiming for. Vision begins with imagination, but becomes powerful through intention. Anyone can imagine a better life, but rebuilding yourself requires defining that life. What does your ideal future look like? How do you carry yourself? What habits shape your days? What values guide your decisions? What kind of relationships surround you? What level of discipline do you follow? These questions help you create a detailed picture of your future self. The clearer your vision, the stronger your direction. When you know where you are going, distractions lose their power. Noise loses its influence. Opinions lose their impact. Vision creates alignment between your choices and your future. You act differently because you see differently. Vision acts as a filter. When you understand who you want to become, you naturally stop entertaining the things that don't align with that version. If your vision includes becoming stronger, you stop making excuses that weaken you. If your vision includes success, you stop wasting time on habits that drain your potential. If your vision includes peace, you stop participating in chaos. Vision eliminates confusion because it defines what matters and what must be released. Many people struggle because they try to grow without direction. They chase random goals, follow temporary passions, and react to whatever life throws at them. Vision turns randomness into focus. It gives your energy a target. Another key role of vision is its ability to fuel discipline. Discipline is difficult without purpose. It's hard to wake up early, stay committed, reject distractions, and push yourself beyond your comfort zone if you don't know why you're doing it. But when your vision is strong, discipline becomes natural. You're no longer forcing yourself. A clear vision gives you a reason to endure discomfort, to sacrifice temporary pleasure, and to rise above excuses. You recognize that every effort is shaping the person you're becoming. Vision turns discipline into devotion. You commit not because you must, but because you want to honor the future you've chosen. Vision also influences your belief system. When you envision a stronger, wiser, more capable version of yourself, you begin to believe that this version is possible. That belief shifts your identity. You stop identifying with your past limitations and start identifying with your future potential. This shift is crucial because your actions will always follow your identity. If you see yourself as someone capable of growth, you behave accordingly. Vision expands your belief in what you can achieve. It gives you permission to dream bigger, act bolder, and expect more from yourself. Through vision, you rewrite the story you tell yourself about who you are. Vision is also a source of resilience. When life becomes difficult, people without vision break. They lose motivation, doubt themselves, and fall back into old habits. But people with vision endure because they know what they are fighting for. Vision gives meaning to struggle. It reminds you that challenges are part of the journey, not a sign to quit. When you know your destination, setbacks become detours, not dead ends. Vision keeps you anchored during storms and disciplined during droughts. It helps you stay committed even when progress feels slow. Another role of vision is that it inspires action. Many people think they need motivation to begin, but motivation is inconsistent. Vision creates movement. When you can clearly see your future, you naturally take steps toward it. You begin shaping your habits, adjusting your environment, refining your mindset, and improving your behavior because you want your actions to match your vision. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because your future matters more than your comfort. Vision shifts you from passive dreaming to active building. Vision also helps you measure progress. Without vision, you cannot tell whether you're improving because you have nothing to compare your actions to. But with vision, every step becomes meaningful. You can look at your choices and ask, does this bring me closer to my future or farther away? This simple question creates accountability. It keeps you honest. It prevents you from drifting into old patterns. Vision keeps your journey intentional. Ultimately, vision shapes your identity, your habits, your decisions, and your future. It gives your life direction and your rebuild purpose. It transforms your effort into momentum and your dreams into plans. When you carry a strong vision within you, you walk differently, think differently, and live differently because you understand that your life is not happening by accident. It is being created by design. Vision is the blueprint that turns rebuilding into a purposeful, powerful, and unstoppable transformation. Momentum is built through action, not intention, and this truth sits at the heart of every personal transformation. Many people have dreams, plans, and goals, but they remain stuck because they live more in their thoughts than in their steps. They wait for motivation to strike, for the perfect moment to appear, for clarity to arrive, or for fear to disappear. But nothing changes until you start moving. Action is what creates momentum, and momentum is what makes change feel real and possible. Once you begin, even with the smallest step, you shift from being a thinker of change to a creator of change. Action turns uncertainty into clarity, ideas into progress, and intentions into results. Without action, all you're left with is potential that never evolves into power. Momentum doesn't require dramatic moves. It begins with something small, something simple enough that you cannot talk yourself out of it. When you take a small step, you create a spark. That spark leads to the next step and then the next. The human mind is designed to follow what it starts. When you begin, you ignite an inner drive that encourages continuation. This is why doing just one small action can completely shift how you feel. Cleaning one corner of your room makes you want to clean more. Reading one page makes you want to read another. Doing a 5-minute workout often turns into 20. Action fuels action. Momentum is the force that comes from this ongoing movement, and it builds stronger with each step you take. People often underestimate how powerful small steps are because they measure progress only by big achievements. But real transformation rarely starts with big achievements. It starts with consistent, simple actions. Great changes are built from tiny repetitions. Skills are developed minute by minute, not in massive leaps. Confidence grows each time you follow through. Discipline strengthens with each intentional act. The reason momentum feels powerful is that it compounds. Like a snowball rolling down a hill, it starts small but grows with every rotation. A little effort turns into a habit turns into a lifestyle turns into identity. That is how momentum transforms who you are becoming. Another important truth about action is that it overcomes fear. Fear hates movement. It thrives in hesitation, overthinking, and inaction. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. The more you think, the more complicated everything feels. But the moment you move, fear loses its power. You stop imagining worst-case scenarios because you're too busy taking steps forward. Action gives you evidence that you can handle the journey. It proves to you that progress is possible. It shifts your mindset from what if I fail to look what I'm capable of doing. Every step you take reduces your doubt and increases your confidence. You stop being controlled by fear and start being guided by purpose. Momentum also brings clarity. Many people refuse to start because they feel confused or uncertain about the exact direction they should take. But clarity rarely comes before movement. It comes during movement. You discover what works and what doesn't by doing, not by thinking. You refine your path through experience, not imagination. You learn about your strengths through practice, not theory. When you take action, every step teaches you something: what to adjust, what to continue, what to avoid. Momentum turns confusion into insight. It shows you what your next step should be because each step reveals the step after it. Life becomes clearer when you move through it rather than trying to figure it all out from the sidelines. Momentum also builds emotional strength. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you look at the entire journey at once. But when you break it into steps and stay in motion, everything feels more manageable. The path becomes less intimidating. You feel more capable because you're not stuck in your mind. You're engaged in the process. Momentum keeps you from drifting back into old habits because it creates a sense of responsibility to your progress. When you see yourself improving, even in small ways, you feel inspired to keep going. Momentum becomes its own motivation. Another key part of building momentum is consistency. Even imperfect action builds more momentum than perfect inaction. You don't need every step to be flawless. You just need to keep taking steps. Effort made on the days you don't feel like it is especially powerful because it strengthens your identity as someone who follows through. Consistency creates rhythm, and rhythm sustains momentum. When action becomes a routine, momentum becomes natural. Momentum is not luck, it is built. It begins with a decision, followed by a step, followed by another. It grows with consistency, discipline, and willingness to move, even when motivation is low. It carries you forward when your emotions waver. It pushes you beyond your comfort zone. The moment you start acting, you begin creating the energy that will eventually transform your life. Momentum is the engine of change, the proof of commitment, and the force that turns small beginnings into powerful transformations. In the end, rebuilding yourself is not a single moment, not a single decision, and not a single breakthrough. It is a journey of courage, discipline, humility, and relentless belief in who you can become. Life will test you, break you, shake you, and even pause you, but it will never define you unless you let it. The power has always been in your hands, the power to rise, to restart, and to rewrite your story. Every setback you faced was preparing you for a stronger comeback. Every challenge was shaping a version of you that is wiser, sharper, and more unstoppable than before. You are not rebuilding because you are weak. You are rebuilding because you finally understand your strength. So step into the next chapter with boldness. Step into it with clarity. Step into it with the fire of someone who refuses to settle for anything less than their potential. Your future is not waiting. It's calling. Answer it with action. Answer it with confidence, and answer it with the belief that the best version of you is not behind you. It's waiting ahead. I wish you courage for the hard days, discipline for the long nights, and faith for the uncertain moments. May your journey forward be filled with growth, breakthroughs, and victories that remind you just how powerful you truly are.